Welcome everyone. We're about to start a new Torah, Torah Tesvav 15 in Likutei Moharan, Chelik Aleph, and very excited about this. The first part of this Torah has in it one of my favorite teachings in Likutei Moharan. So I'm very, very excited for this. And where's more here? Play the sound. There we go. So there's a lot of good stuff in this Torah, but one point in particular that is very, very shaykh to everybody. So this Torah is one more in the series of Torahs that are explaining the stories of Rabbi Bar Chana from the Gemara in Bava Basra, as we've seen up until now, and it's going to be another one. This Torah begins talking about the concept of yira, fear, awe of Hashem, but we're going to use the word fear now, and elevating fear to its source. So if you remember, the last Torah that we learned took us quite a long time. One of the main points of it that he said in the very beginning was that in order to bring peace into the world, you have to elevate kavod, honor, to its source in yira, its source which is in yira. Now this Torah is going to start off talking about elevating yira to its source. It's like the next level. Everything in Likutei Moharan, in some way, we don't always see it so clearly, but follows a path, and the Torah previously connects to the next one. So we're going to see how this connects to the previous Torah and how it takes it to the next level. So this Torah was taught in 1802 in Zlatopolia, and there's a famous story that there was a certain Talmud Chacham who married one of Rabbi Nachman's followers, married his daughter, and when this person, his name was Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac, and he was like skeptical of Chassidus, of Rabbi Nachman, and he came and met him, and he could see that he was skeptical, and he explained to Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac at that time this concept that we're about to talk about, that when one has proper yiras Hashem, proper fear of heaven, he can taste the light he can taste the hidden light, the Or HaGanuz, this hidden spiritual light in the world. And as he said that, he told him, this is something that Rabbi Nachman is known to have said on numerous occasions. Rabbi Nachman said, I am an oitzar fun yiras shamayim. I am a treasure house of yiras shamayim. And when he said that, Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac felt a wave of like earth-shattering yiras shamayim, followed by this tremendous light, spiritual light. And then Rabbi Nachman told him that he could see that he was skeptical, and he just wanted to give him a taste of what Rabbi Nachman was all about. So he gave him this tremendous sense of yira, of fear, yiras shamayim, followed by tremendous spiritual light, all as a taste of what he could get from learning the Torah in depth through the teachings of Rabbi Nachman. So with that in mind, let's start this Torah. I'm very excited about this. Okay. Baruch Hashem. So it starts off with a pasuk, Va'atem tiyu li mamleches kahanim. You will be for me a nation of priests, vegoy kadosh, and a holy nation. And Ele hadvarim asher tedaber al bnei Yisrael. These are the words that you should speak to the bnei Yisrael, to the children of Israel. That's the first pasuk that we're gonna learn from, and happens to be the same pasuk is in Torah Lamed Dalet at the end also. Okay, says Rabbeinu like this. This is Lashon Rabbeinu, Zichron Livracha. This is the actual words that were written by Rabbi Nachman, not what Rabbi Nassan heard and then wrote down. This is from Rabbi Nachman's writings himself. So the words are usually, that means that they're a little bit more precise and short-worded. I don't know if that's the right word. The opposite of long-winded. Short-winded? I don't know. Okay. More terse. Zok Rabbeinu, Mi sheroitze litoim tam or haganuz. Someone who wants to taste the or haganuz, the hidden light. We'll explain what this means in a second. Hainu, soidos ha-Torah sheyizgale lasid. This is referring to the secrets of Torah that will be revealed in the future. Tzarech laha'alois midas hayira l'sharasha. A person has to raise up, elevate the attribute of yira, of fear or awe, to its source, to its root. Okay, so a few things to unpack over here. First of all, what does Or Haganuz mean? What's the hidden light? So there's a famous, the Gemara speaks about this, Rashi speaks about this, the Medrash speaks about this. In the very beginning of all creation, the Torah says that Vayomer Elokim Yehior Vehior. Hashem said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And then it says, Vayar Elokim et haor ki tov. Hashem saw that the light was good. And Rashi says over there, he brings that the Gemara says, Vayar Elokim es haor ki tov. He saw that the light was good. Tov lignois. It was good to hide it. It was good to be hidden. So what does that mean? So there's a number of explanations, or not really explanations, there's a number of ways to understand this. And we're going to see a real difference between different streams of Judaism on how to practically relate to this idea, okay? So first of all, what Rashi explains over there is that Hashem saw when He created the world. We have to understand what this means also. He created this beautiful light. And this light is not just, when you flip a switch and the light comes on. This light is pure spiritual goodness. This is the high level light. It's not Hashem, but it's like light that emanates from Hashem, if we could say such a thing. And it's tremendously spiritually powerful and beautiful. And it says, the Medrash says about this light, that with this light, one can see from one side of the universe to the other side of the universe. Whatever that exactly means, I'm not sure. Right? But we know that light really has a connotation in physical existence, that light enables us to see a greater distance. So imagine yourself out somewhere in the country, out at a lake or something, and so there's no lights around, right? During the daytime, you can see all the way across the lake. You can see all the way down the dirt road that leads up to your cottage or tent or wherever you are, right? You can see a long way. And as the sun starts to go down and it starts to get darker, you start to be able to see less of a distance. You can no longer see the other side of the lake. You can no longer see all the way down the road. And as it gets darker, you can see less and less until you can only see what's right in front of you, if you're lucky, depending on how much moonlight there is, right? So that's physical light, right? So too, in the spiritual realms and in the deeper ways of our own thinking, the more light we have in a spiritual sense, the more ruchnius we experience, the clearer we can see the world. The clearer we can see our own existence. The more clarity we have on how to live and what to do. We can see further ahead of ourselves. We can imagine what's going to be, right? So the more deep Torah we learn, the more our lives are illuminated and the more our path is illuminated in front of us, which is a huge, huge, huge bracha. I don't know about you guys, but I find that many, many problems that people deal with nowadays are because of a lack of emunah, which is, in a sense, also a lack of clarity and a lack of das, a lack of understanding. And people are afraid, very, very, very afraid. We're going to get into this a little bit more soon. So anyway, so the Torah said, the Medrash says that Hashem hid the light away, l'tzadikim la'asid lavai. He hid this light away for the tzadikim in the future. So, because he saw that there was going to be Rashayim, evil people in the world. And it's not proper that the Rashayim should be able to use this pure godly light. So he hid it away for the tzaddikim in the future. Now, practically speaking, there's a whole swath of Jews in the world right now, a large swath of Jews in the world, that understand this to mean that light is hidden away until Mashiach comes. It's done, gone, forget about it. Right? And when Mashiach comes, that's what the Medrash means by lasid. In the future, when Mashiach comes, that's when we'll experience this light. But the holy Kabbalah, and especially brought out by the Baal Shem Tov and his Talmidim, and by Rabbi Nachman here, we're going to see, and all the Chassidish Sfarim, it's a very awesome point that the Or HaGanus, the hidden spiritual light, is something that we can attain in our own existence. Right? Now. Not to the ultimate level, it's true. The ultimate revelation of that light is going to be when Mashiach comes. But now, we can access to it. We can have access to it. We can get a taste of it, right? So that's what Rabbi Nachman's saying over here. Someone who wants to have Toyem Tam Or HaGanuz, who wants to taste the Or HaGanuz, the hidden spiritual light, has to do it by elevating Yira to its shorish, elevating Yira to its root. So I always think it's, this is something that before I learned Chassidish Sfarim, the first time I saw this concept was in the Nesivo Shalom, maybe, 10, 12 years ago. And when I saw it, I felt a sense of relief. I was like, oh yeah, of course. We have to be able to reach it now. Like it's a relief to me that this is something that we can work towards and access, right? So this is hidden. The Rabbi Nachman says, what is the Or HaGanuz? Where is it hidden? Hainu soidos haTorah. It's hidden in the secrets of Torah, the deep level of Torah understanding, Kabbalah, the secrets of Torah. That's where the Or HaGanuz is hidden. And something awesome. You want to hear this? So the Zohar says, explaining this, that so the word for light in Hebrew is Or, Aleph Vav Resh, right? That's the word for light. And one of the words for the secrets of Torah are Razeh Oraisa, the secrets of Torah, Raz, right? Resh Zayin. So it's not a coincidence that the gematria of the word for secrets of Torah, Raz, Resh Zayin, is 207. And the gematria of Or is 207. Because that Or, that secret hidden light, is hidden within the secrets of the Torah. So we have this ability to reach in and make a connection and pull down a taste of that Or HaGanuz, is what Rabbi Nachman's telling us right now. And the way we do it is by elevating the midah of Yira to its root. L'chaim. Okay, now we're going to get to the juicy part. Just want to say before we go, don't you want to be this person? Don't you want to taste the hidden light? The hidden godly light that's hidden within the deeper aspects of Torah? Right? Baruch Hashem, we get it from learning Rabbi Nachman. But we got to be these people. We have to learn this stuff and pull it out and taste it. So we have as we always like to say in Breslov, Ashreinu. Fortunate are we that we have the Holy Torah and the Holy Torah of Rabbi Nachman and of all the Chassidish Sfarim and the Kabbalistic Sfarim and everything that gives us this deeper level of understanding. We of course can't forget to study the revealed Torah also, right? More so even. But we got to make sure that we go for some of the hidden Torah also. Okay, Beis. Ubameh hamailin esayira. And with what are we able to elevate the yira up to its root, up to its source? B'bechinas mishpat. It's through the concept of mishpat. Mishpat means judgment. Judgment. Like the pasuk says, Melech b'mishpat Ya'amid Aretz. Through judgment, the king will establish the land. So, the Eretz, hu b'chinas yira, and the word Eretz has a connection to the concept of yira, of fear. Kamei shekasov, like the pasuk says, Eretz yar'ah in Tehillim. The pasuk says, the earth will be feared, will fear. The earth feared. The earth itself had fear. The earth feared. I don't know how many times I could say that. The earth feared. So the word Eretz has a connection to Yira. Eretz Yar'ah. So Melech b'mishpat Yamid Aretz. What stands up? So Aretz is Yira, is fear. What stands up? What Ya'amid? What's going to stand up and raise up the fear? This is Mishpat. Mishpat Ya'amid Aretz. The Mishpat will raise up the Yira. Kamei shekasov. Hainu. So what does this mean to us? What does it mean that judgment is going to raise Yira up? Does that mean that we're supposed to be judgy people? And look around at everyone else and judge them? Maybe yes, but we got to judge them favorably. Right? But that's not what it means. Says Rabbi Nachman, Hainu, sheyishpoit es kol asakav. That a person should judge all of their own deeds and actions. A person should judge their own actions. Just 1 second. Better? Okay. Just had to mute everybody there. Okay. The judgment is not a judgment in court. And it's not a judgment of me looking down on other people. It's me looking at my own business and my own actions, the way that I am living, the way that I'm running things in my own life on many levels. That's the mishpat that we're talking about. Kamei shekasov, like the pasuk says, Yechalkel devarav b'mishpat. A person conducts his affairs with mishpat, his own affairs with mishpat. Hainu sheyishpoit v'yadin ba'atzmoi kol asakav. That means a person has to judge and evaluate all of his actions, all of her actions. Ubezeh yaser me'alav kol hapechadim. And through this, a person will remove from themselves all of the fear that they're holding within themselves. V'yala bechinas yira bara unekia. And he will elevate and raise up this beautiful, clear and clean fear. V'tishayer rak yiras Hashem, v'lo yira acheres. And the only thing that will remain is yiras Hashem, is fear of Hashem, and no other fear. I'm going to read more before we go back and explain this, okay? Because when a person does not judge themselves, does not look at their own actions, Azai danin v'shoiftin oisoi lamala. They judge him and evaluate him upstairs in the heavenly court. Ki, an important pasuk here. Im ein din lamata, ein din lamala. Says the Medrash. If there's no din, judgment downstairs, down in this world, then there has to be a judgment upstairs. Uchesheshoiftin. Let me explain now. It's like this. There has to be, each of us, our default setting, the place we're supposed to be, is to have 100% Yiras Hashem. Our Yira, we're supposed to have total Yira for Hashem. However, when our Yira is not there, our Yira is not for Hashem, it goes to another place. So if we're not guiding and aiming our awe and our fear to Hashem, then that fear is still going to exist, but it's going to enclose itself around other aspects of my existence. And suddenly, there's going to be things in my life that are terrifying to me, that are worrying me, giving me anxiety. I'm going to be afraid all the time of a bunch of other things, right? But I'm not supposed to be afraid of those things. My fear is supposed to be 100% aimed and guided towards Hashem. But my fear is there. And if it's not in the right place, then it's going to be usurped by these negative things. So for example, you can have two people living the exact same lives right now. And some people, I actually spoke with someone today for a while because they were having problems with a certain situation where a longtime friend of theirs, who's single, a single lady, and they always have her over for Pesach, but this lady is so afraid of COVID, and believe me, this is not a judgment, and it's not anything political or anything to do with the metzius, the reality of the COVID situation. What's important is that this person was living in very powerful, palpable fear, and to a great extent. So, there's some people take COVID a little more seriously than others. This person was like off the charts serious. And because my friend was going to have another person over at his Pesach Seder who was not so careful, this person is like, well, if you're associating with those types of people, then I don't want to see you for the next 4 months. Right? And they're close. And so this person is now going to be doing Pesach alone and is going to be alone for months. And once again, I'm not judging, but she's anxious and fearful, and is living a difficult existence and a pained existence because of this fear. You can have someone also who lives. I know I've told the story before. I won't tell the whole story, but I knew someone who had a sudden, very serious financial situation, where they found out that they owed the government like hundreds of thousands of dollars in back taxes, right? And this person was literally like on the edge of a mental breakdown because of this money, with such fear and anxiety, like literally almost to lose control of themselves. And Baruch Hashem, they were able to understand, that there's a way to deal with it. And Baruch Hashem, it's now probably 1.5 years or 2 years later, and the money's all paid back, it's all done. Right? But this person was so afraid, and the way I like to explain it is, this person didn't know what was going to happen. Am I going to lose my house? Am I going to go to jail? Am I going to ever have money again? What's going to be? Right? So the way I always like to explain it is that this person was afraid of a potential negative outcome that does not exist and may never exist. A potential negative outcome that does not currently exist and may never exist. Because of this made up, potentiality of falsehood, a person can lose their life for months because they're so afraid of something that doesn't exist. Right? It doesn't exist. So the fear has a power, and it can grip a person. And when a person has fear of all these things in the world, right, it ruins our lives and it ruins our avodas Hashem. It ruins our ability to serve Hashem properly. Because when I'm afraid all the time, I can't be the person I'm supposed to be. I can't serve Hashem with authenticity. I can't do the things I need to do. I cannot daven properly for sure when I'm full of yira. Definitely. Right? So where's our fear? If our fear is in line, in the right place with Hashem, then it's not going to present itself to us in other ways. Why? Because basically, that's where our fear is supposed to be. Now, Rabbi Nachman says, so how do I do that? I make sure that I'm judging myself every day. I'm looking at what happened to me. How is my life going? What am I doing in my life? Right? And when I do that, I'm able to see what's going on. This is a Torah. This is one of the sources of Hisbodedus in Likutei Moharan, by the way, one of the main sources. When I do this, I'm able to see these aspects of my life and think about and understand where I'm going wrong, and where my yira is in the wrong place. And as long as I'm doing that, and I'm living with emunah, and I'm connecting to Hashem, and my yira and my fear and awe is only to Hashem, then everything is great. But if I don't do that, and I'm not living with emunah, and I'm living in fear, my connection to Hashem is not where it should be, so upstairs they're going to say, wait a second, this person, his yira is not in the right place. He's not living with emunah. He's not connected to Hashem. We got to wake him up. And so they're going to judge us upstairs. And they're going to say, he's not doing things right. He's got to be woken up. So how are they going to wake us up? They're going to send that yira down to us in a different package. It's not going to be yiras Hashem now. Now it's going to be yiras COVID. Now it's going to be yiras finances. It's going to be yiras, I don't know, what's going to be with my children? It's going to be yiras, am I ever going to get married? It's going to be yiras, am I ever going to get out of this marriage? Right? Whatever the situation is. That's a joke, by the way. Okay. Chas v'shalom. So it's going to come to us. The yira is going to be there. But it's going to come in the wrong way. So, and when they judge us from upstairs, then that din is going to be enclosed in anything in the world. And everything in my life becomes a messenger of Hashem. You hear this? Everything I experience now is a messenger of Hashem. Mishpat, to do judgment to this person. Mishpat Kasov, like it says, the written judgment. Like Chazal say in the Gemara Nedarim, L'mishpatecha amdu, to your judgments they stood up, they were steadfast. Azai hakol avadecha, therefore everyone is your servants. Lasa is din bazeh ha'adam, to do din, judgments, to this person. To this person. Meaning, hakol avadecha doesn't mean the people are all your servants. It means everything in the world becomes a servant of Hashem to affect the judgment on the person who needs it. So what does that mean? It means either we start to look at ourselves and look inward and do a cheshbon hanefesh, a personal accounting on a daily basis, or it's going to happen, whether we like it or not, in a much more painful way. And the more a person is turned on to these matters, the more you'll be able to see it very clearly. That you'll get off track, and all of a sudden something will happen, and you'll be like, why is this thing happening to me all of a sudden? Why is this negativity in my life all of a sudden? And then you'll be like, oh yeah, I got off track. I have not been looking inward. I have not been dealing with my own feelings and behavior and emotions and midos. I'm off track. So since I'm falling asleep and I'm not awake to what I need to do, they're going to wake me up. Right? Chaim. Aval, but when a person judges themselves, din lamata, ein din lamala, and when there is a judgment downstairs here, then there's no din upstairs. There's no need for a din upstairs. Ve'ein hayira mislabish b'shum davar la'eres ha'adam. Then the fear will not enclothe itself over anything in this world in order to arouse the person, says Rabbi Nachman. Because the person themselves aroused and awakened themselves. Right? So if I awaken myself, then they don't need to send things down to awaken me. But if I'm off track and I'm not paying attention, I'm not working on myself, then things are going to happen that force me to wake up and work on myself. V'zehu, this is what the pasuk says, v'sam derech, that Hashem puts us on the right path, puts right the derech. Mi shesam or chaysav, someone who evaluates. So the shorish of sin mem can either mean to place or it can mean to evaluate, to measure, to judge. Ki misha sam or chaysav, someone who takes care of, who evaluates their pathways. She does. This is the way that Chazal darshan it. Hainu sheshayfet or chaysav. He judges himself. He judges his path. Is he on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? K'moshe Kasuv ve'ele hamishpatim asher tasim. These are the mishpatim that you shall place. This is the pasuk that we started off this Torah with. These are the mishpatim, the judgments that you shall place. These are the judgments in the new understanding of that word, tasim, that you need to evaluate, measure, figure out. You want to elevate Yira to its source? You want to be close to Hashem? You want to be a person of Emunah? Then you must look inward and you must evaluate what's going on in your life. You must judge yourself. And then what's the rest of this pasuk? And through this, Ar'enu beyesha Elokim. I will show you the salvation of Hashem. Ze b'chinas Yira. This is Yira. K'moshe Kasuv. This is the salvation of Elokim. What does the name of Hashem Elokim refer to? Usually, we understand that the name of Hashem Yud Ke Vav Ke relates to the midah of Chesed, right? And the name of Elokim relates to the name of judgment, of Din, right? So when the pasuk says Arenu beyesha Elokim, I will show to you the salvation of Elokim, it means the salvation of the Yira, meaning I will show you how now the Yira will be in its right place and you won't experience that negativity anymore. Es Elokim Yira, right? Elokim is the name of Yira. Hainu mechinas Yira oile mehaklipa. That means that the Yira, the fear, is going to leave the place that it's in now, in Klipa, and from the other nations, and it will go through Mishpat. This will happen all through Mishpat. Because in the beginning, this fear was enclosed in Klipa, in negativity, in spiritual dirt. Listen to this. Just listen to this word that he says over here. V'zehu sheha'adam mefached es atzmai me'eze davar. If you weren't too careful in translation, you might say, and this is how a person can become afraid of something in the world, some item in existence, right? But he says, V'zehu sheha'adam mefached es atzmai. This is how a person will scare himself. A person will cause fear to themselves. Not that the person is afraid of something outside of them. The person themselves is giving themselves the fear. They're arousing the fear within themselves, the negative fear. Misar or meganavim ushar pachadim, whether it's from a government minister or from thieves, whatever it is in the world that causes you to be a fearful person. Right? All kinds of fear. Zehu shehayira nislabish b'zeh hadavar. It's not because that thing, you need to be afraid of that thing. It's because the fear has enclosed it. The fear has become part of it. Ki im lo haya nislabish hayira b'zeh hadavar, because if it wasn't for the fact that the fear enclosed it, lo haya koyach b'zeh hadavar lahafchid es adam. This thing would have no power over you. This thing itself, whatever it is, literally has no power over you. It's only when a person is mefached as atzmai, right? I want to give you an example. So, there's a lot of fear around money in the world, right? A lot of fear around money. And you might think, it's only for people who don't have much money. They have a lot of fear around money. But if only I had more money, then I wouldn't have any fear about money, because everything would just be fine. Everybody knows that that's totally not true, and the general klal is the more money a person has, there's a famous quote from the 90s, I think, a rap star, more money, more problems. Right? Pirkei Avos says, Marbe nesachim, marbe daiga. The more property and money and belongings we have, the more worry we have. The more money a person has, the worse things are, and the more fearful they are of it. But imagine, you can have a person who has some debt. Let's say a person has credit card debt. Let's say it's credit card debt of $10,000. Okay? So some people might say, whoa, credit card debt of $10,000, that's a lot. Other people might say, what, that's it? I'd give anything to only have credit card debt of $10,000. Right? But there's two ways a person can live their life. When they have a debt, let's just say an amount of debt that makes them uncomfortable. Enough to make them uncomfortable. Okay? So there's two ways that a person can live with this. I have this debt. I can let it wear on me. And I can think about it every day and always be upset about it and always worry about it. Because I don't know how I'm going to pay it back. Right? I don't know how I'm going to pay it back. So that's one way to live. Or I can be the same person and still not know how I'm going to pay it back. Right? But I can know that this is from Hashem, and I know that my way out of this is to daven to Hashem. I know it's meant for me, and I know Hashem takes care of me. I'm going to have emunah, and I'm going to direct my yira, my fear and my awe to Hashem. I'm not going to say, these people are ruining my life. This debt is ruining my life. And this debt has the power over me. I'm going to say, I have a debt. I have to go to the boss. I'm not going to go to the credit card company. I'm not going to go to wherever. I'm going to go to the boss. And I'm going to talk to Hashem. Because if I have this credit card debt right now, it means that Hashem wants me to learn something from it. It's a message from Hashem. So I'm going to go to Hashem. And I'm going to daven to Hashem. Hashem, I got to get rid of this debt. Please help me. And I'm going to daven for it, and daven for it, and daven for it, and daven for it. And eventually, in the right time, Hashem's going to take it away. But imagine the difference of these two existences. Of a person who says to themselves, okay, I have a debt. What can I do? Whatever's going to be with my debt is going to be. And I'm going to keep connecting to Hashem. I'm putting the yira to Hashem. Right? This person lives a different life from the person who is afraid every time the phone rings from a debt collector. Every time an envelope comes from the debt collector. Right? This person can be afraid. I was once part of a business, by the way, that the business sort of folded, and one of the people that I was in the business with did something so that there was an outstanding amount of a lease. And I said to the person, okay, we have this outstanding amount here. Even though the company closed, we should probably do something about it. We should pay it. And it was in the person's name. And so the person was like, no, I'm not paying it. And he had a whole cheshbon why he shouldn't pay it. And the people started calling me. And at first I was upset and I was afraid. And then afterwards, I said, wait a second. This is a wake-up call from Hashem to me. I'm not afraid of these people. First of all, my name wasn't on it. But first of all, this is a wake-up call to Hashem from me. I'm not going to let every time I see this number calling me, or I get an email from them or a letter from them, I'm not going to let it bother me. Right? Hashem runs the world. I would like this debt to go away, yeah, but I'm going to Hashem for it. I'm not saying that a person doesn't have to be responsible and pay their debts, God forbid. That's not what I'm saying. But to know where your power comes from, where your salvation comes from, and where your yira should be. When the yira is in the right place, you're living a different existence. It's like a person living with emunah and without emunah. It's the same thing. If a person doesn't have emunah, life is painful. Right? Like Rav Arush always says, right? Before a person has emunah, there's one life. And then after a person has emunah, there's a different life. And it's like they're in Gan Eden in a certain sense. That's, by the way, why he says, he told me this, I don't know if it's written in the book, I don't remember, but that's why it's called the Garden of Emunah, Gan HaEmunah. Because after you have Emunah, it's like you're walking through a garden. It's a different existence, right? So what do you want to be? Do you want to be always afraid? Or do you want to or do you want to put the yira where it's supposed to be? Give it to Hashem and live a life of happiness and connection to Hashem. So it all lies within the way that we look at ourselves. So, a couple of things, additional things I want to say over here. What does it mean to be shofet es atzmai, to judge oneself? So, we know that we don't like to be judgy of other people, obviously, right? And we're commanded, dan es kol ha'adam l'chav zchus, that we have to judge every person favorably, right? So what am I doing to myself here? How am I judging myself? How does it work? So it's important to note that Rabbi Nachman has an important piece of advice. I was telling this to someone just yesterday. That when we're dealing with all of our own shtus, right? All of our own negativity and when we have to look at ourselves, Rabbi Nachman is telling us, you got to look at yourself every day. You got to find the things that are wrong with you. You got to find where your bad midos are, your bad character traits are. You got to find where your bad actions are. You have to do that, right? But Rabbi Nachman says something very important. He says we have to spend each day a small amount of time doing this. V'shar chol hayom b'simcha, and the rest of the day b'simcha. These ideas are a recipe for effective, positive existence. I have to put the fear in the right place, only to Hashem. Not to the debt collector, not to the thieves, not to the in-laws, another joke, right? Not to whoever it's supposed to be, right? Just to Hashem. And when I judge myself, I have to do it every day. But then I figure it out and I say, okay, those things I'm going to work on today. And now I'm going to work. I'm going to start being an Eved Hashem. I'm going to start doing the right thing from right now. And I'm not going to be thinking all day, oh my gosh, those things that I did, I can't believe I did those things. I'm such a loser. Why was I always doing that? Can't I do this? Why can't I do that? That is not Rabbi Nachman Torah. That's not Breslov behavior. Right? Figure it out. Look at myself. Judge myself. And then move forward. Move forward with simcha. But it's got to be every single day. And even in Hisbodedus, by the way, only a small portion of the Hisbodedus should be this type of discussion. Looking at oneself and one's own negative attributes and whatnot. And the rest of the Hisbodedus even has to be besimcha. Very important. So we all have these things in our lives. These points of fear, and this Torah is a beautiful revelation to tell us that it doesn't have to be that way. It does not have to be that way. One last thing. He says something very important over here with regards to Yira. And he says that if it wasn't for the fact that the person is mefached es atzmai, the person causes themselves to have fear, there would be no power in this item that they're afraid of. The power would not exist in this thing. All of these are good examples of this. But the main point is, I can choose whether I want to be afraid of something. I can choose. So I can be a person who has a certain debt. And you can have two people with the same debt. And one person is pulling out their hair and is living in fear. And another person is living their lives and doing good and having good relationships, helping people, getting closer to Hashem. Right? And they're both going to get rid of their debt at some point. But one person has put all of their fear onto that item. They've built it up themselves. And the other person has put the fear to Hashem. And this can apply to anything in existence. It can apply to COVID, it can apply to health, it can apply, and even real situations. It can apply to, I'm going to be careful how I say this, but different people had a different experience in the Holocaust. And I'm going to preface this by saying that there's not an ounce of judgment towards anyone who experienced the Holocaust, or their children, even. And the amount of pain and terror and suffering that went on, right? But there are some people who came out of the Holocaust. Once again, I'm not judging them. And they ran away from Hashem. And everything was so painful. And every step of the way, throughout that whole experience, was fear and pain and suffering and negativity. No judgment, please. And then I know some people who literally were in Auschwitz. I think I mentioned it before. Yisrael Cohen. He lived in Toronto, close to Eglinton. He was in the concentration camp as a boy. I think he was 13, 14 years old. And he was an amazing person. And he, in the concentration camp, a few of them would try to remember different prayers and different parts of the Torah by heart. And they would each take the certain things and try to remember it so that they could keep the tefillahs going and keep the Torah learning going. Totally amazing. But anyway, he was in a concentration camp and he experienced hell. But he wrote a book it's available, I think it's a Feldheim book, called Destined to Survive. And in this book, he talks about how at every corner he saw Hashem. And everything that he experienced, he saw. It wasn't about all of the fear and the terror and the negativity. It was, where did I see Hashem? Where was Hashem with me? Where was I able to see that Hashem was with me? So that's an extreme example. And once again, I hope you hear from my heart that I would never judge someone who spoke about their experiences in a negative way. They have the right. But in our lives, we could be the same dynamic. Do I want to be in fear of something that I don't have to be? Two people on the same path, experiencing the same thing. It's a question of, do I allow myself to be fearful of this thing? Do I build it up myself? Because the thing itself has no power on its own. The proof in the pudding is that one person will have the same experience and will not be afraid. Right? The thing itself has no power of fear. Nothing in the world, says Rabbi Nachman, has fear intrinsically attached to it. It's impossible for anything to cause us fear unless the fear is enclosed on that thing from above. Otherwise, the thing has no power on its own. This is a powerful, powerful, important understanding. Do you hear this? Nothing in the world has an intrinsic ability to cause us fear. It doesn't exist. It's only a construct that happens because of the way we relate to the world around us. Isn't that totally mind-blowing? Totally amazing? Right? So these things have no power over us. No power over us. It's all up to us. And we have the ability to make a tikkun, to fix it, to elevate the yira to its right place. That is mind-blowing to me. Totally mind-blowing to me. Okay, let's go a bit weiter. What time is it? We'll do one more paragraph. Meshur sheyira hu das. So what is the root of yira? Where are we elevating it up to? Is das. Das means holy knowledge. Holy knowledge. Like it says in the holy sefer of the Arizal, the Eitz Chaim, that's the Kabbalistic sefer of the Arizal. Shemenatzpach hu bedas dezer anpin. So this is deeply encoded Kabbalistic structure over here. But the letters of the Aleph Beis correspond to all the Kabbalistic universes and everything. So the final letters of the Hebrew alphabet so there's certain letters that when they're at the end of the word, they have a different form. In English, they call them final letters. In Hebrew, they call it a sofit letter, right? Nun sofit, mem sofit. In Yiddish, they call it sometimes like a langer chaf, like a long, because it's long, or an ender chaf, it's at the end, right? But it's these 5 letters that are at the end of the words. So those letters in the Kabbalistic structure, they are in this realm of the das of Zer Anpin, of the das of the Kabbalistic structure of Zer Anpin. K'moshe Kasav, Az Tavin Yiras Hashem V'das Elokim Timtza. Then you will understand the fear of God and the das Elokim, the das of Elokim, you will find. So what does that mean? It's a deep subject, and I think we're going to explain it in a little bit more depth next time, because it's going to take a long time. But the ikar hadas hu belev, the main das is in the heart. K'moshe Kasav, like the pasuk says, V'loi nasan lachem lev ladas. I didn't give to you a heart to understand. Meaning what? Heart, lev, ladas, is connected to das. I'm going to get there in a second. Gam sham ikar hayira. So that place of das, that whole Kabbalistic explanation that we just had, was basically to show us that das is in the heart. This das, this knowledge is in the heart. Gam sham ikar hayira. The heart is also where the main seat of yira, of fear, is. K'moshe amru chachamim, Chazal say, davar hamasar lalev ne'mar bo v'yaresa me'elokecha. Something that is given over to the heart, we say about it, v'yaresa me'elokecha, you shall fear Hashem. Hainu sheyeda mimi yisyare. You should know who your fear comes from. Hainu le'yiras Hashem hanichbad yiras haremus, that you should fear Hashem, His glorious name, Yiras Haremus, the fear of the awesome nature of Hashem. But why is it that this fear, the seat of this fear, is in the heart? As we've said a few times already, the real test of our Yira and the real test of our Amunah, Kavod and Yira, is in the heart. The things that nobody else knows. Right? Because we can behave in a certain way around public. But when no one's around to see us anymore, we change our behavior, right? And it can be very, very subtle. We gave an example a while ago. You remember this? About how when a chashuv, a person comes in the room. So a person can stand up, and one person can be standing up because they want to give honor. We were talking about kavod at the time, honor. One person can stand up because they want to honor that person, and they hold that person in very high esteem, right? And they honor Yirei Hashem. And another person can be standing up because they want to show kavod to themselves, right? Yeah, I know about all the holy people. I'm part of the in crowd. You know, I also honor the holy people. Look at me, right? Right. So that's in the realm of kavod, but in the realm of yira also, you can have, for example, when someone of this stature walks in the room, and you stand up. It's because of Yiras Hashem. If it's really because of Yiras Hashem that you're doing this, so what if you could pretend that you didn't see them come in? You don't stand up. You do the opposite. You remain seated, and you're learning. You're reading something, right? And everyone else stands up, and you just pretend that you're engrossed in your studies, right? So that you don't have to stand up. Why? Because it's not about honor now. Now it's about yira. Do I really believe that Hashem is here with me right now? Do I really want to give? How do I, what's one of the steps to elevate the yira to its source? Is to give kavod to those who are yirei Hashem. Do I really have yira that I'm going to do it? Or am I just playing a game? Am I just trying to look a certain way in front of other people? Right? Where is it? You can even say it about our sweet, holy, wonderful class that we have here, that we learn together, right? Not with you guys. It can't be true, right? But maybe when we all get together and we see each other's faces, that's when we learn. That's when we think about holy things, right? And when everybody's watching on the Zoom and we can see each other's faces, or at least our names, right? Could be some people might come on the class or another class, not you guys for sure, but they might come on a class and just turn it on. I like for university or something, right? And then they'll turn the video off, so it looks like they're there, but really they're not there at all, right? There was a joke like a long time ago in a different tekufa, a different age, where a professor came at the beginning of the year to his class. You heard this one? And he comes into the class, and there's 75% of the students are there. And in a few different seats, he sees people left a tape recorder. I don't think anyone here doesn't know what a tape recorder is. But so he comes back, the next day or the next week, and there's 50% of the people there, and 50% is tape recorders. Then he comes back the next week, and another 25% is gone. So the week after, students come into the room, and they see there's 80% tape recorders, and at the front where the teacher's supposed to be is a tape recorder playing the lesson. It's an old joke. But the idea being, right, are we behaving the way we behave in front of people because we're afraid what they're going to think of us? Or are we doing the things that we're supposed to do because we have Yiras Hashem? I don't care what people think about me. I want to do the right thing. I want to be someone who connects to Hashem, right? I don't want to do things in a way that just so people will see what I'm doing. I want to do it in the right way. So that's V'yareisa me'elokecha, davar hamasr lelev. So the heart is the place of Yira, and the heart is the place of Das. We're going to get more into this next time. Before we finish, let's just do a couple words about this concept of Das that we're talking about over here, and how it might come out to us in our personal existence. We're talking about a person who does Hisbodedus every day. Reb Nosson brings down that Rabbi Nachman said about that if a person does Hisbodedus every day, you could see it on their face. You can recognize on a person who does Hisbodedus every day, because they are on a different level, a different person. And they don't have to be a big tzaddik with a big beard and the whole thing, right? A person who does Hisbodedus every day is a different person, is in a new existence. And this person is taking all of that, everything, is taking their yira, is taking their thoughts, their emunah, and everything that goes on in the head, and putting it into the heart. Right? And when I can do that, when I can take the stuff that's up in the intellect, the chokhmah and the bina, right? And I can take the yira, and I can make it that it's not just in my head, it's not just something I think about, but it becomes an intrinsic part of me, that's when chokhmah and bina become das. Das is an intrinsic, deep, experiential knowledge, right? Das really is, in Rabbi Nachman language, das is really emunah, right? When I'm a person who lives my life with the reality that Hashem is with me every moment, and Hashem guides me, and Hashem speaks to me and gives me messengers all the time, and is putting me on the right path, right? If I live with that reality and clarity, that's called emunah. And that type of experiential existence, of truthful experiential existence, where I feel it and I live it, that is das. Right? My knowledge and my clarity about Hashem in the world is not just something I like to tell other people so they know how holy I think I am. Right? It's not what it's about. This is my life. It's part of me. Right? So if I'm this person and I do my Hisbodedus every day, and part of that is judging myself, is looking at every single aspect of my day and seeing where I'm standing, right? The other thing is, once I start talking about Hisbodedus, I can go for a long time, but not too much longer. But what happens when you do Hisbodedus and you start dissecting your day. Right? This is so cool. So let's say I had a difficult day, and I was emotionally, spiritually all over the place. And I got angry at someone, and I got in a fight with somebody, and I started arguing about something that I shouldn't argue about. And, at the end of the day, I'm frazzled, and it was not a good day. And I get to a point of Hisbodedus, and I start to go back into my day. And I say, Hashem, in the morning, I got into an argument with this person. And I start talking about where it came from, and how this person said something to me and it got me defensive. And I started to feel my ego raising up because I feel defensive. So now I got to fight back. And I did that. And then, But you know what, Hashem? I should have listened to Rabbi Nachman, and I should have given the kavod to you, and I should have been quiet. I shouldn't have argued. I should have put the kavod to you, not to myself. Right? I missed my opportunity. Right? And then I went to the next step, and the same thing happened in a different way. What am I doing? I went through a whole day without Hashem, basically. Now in my Hisbodedus, I'm kind of reliving that day and putting Hashem back into it. I'm attaching Hashem to all those points in the day, right? I'm looking back at what happened and time traveling to live that moment again with Hashem. And to say, Hashem, I should have been thinking about you. I should have been more on top of my game. What was I doing? Now that day that I experienced is no longer a day without Hashem. Actually, something amazing that Rav Kook says in the same realm. He says this idea that it's through tshuva that we can really travel through time. Because everyone here knows, there's something about you, about me, that is a flaw that we have. Something we have not made a tikkun in, right? Whether it has to do with kavod or kas or any of these things, right? And I know that it keeps coming up over and over again. And until I fix it, it's going to keep coming up. And I can run away to different places. I can say, you know what, things aren't working out. I got to move to Eretz Yisrael. And it can just be running away. I can get to Eretz Yisrael and be like, I'm in the Holy Land now. Everything's going to be great. And the same things are going to keep happening. Why? Because I have not made the tikkun. I have not made the tikkun yet. So, what does that mean? Sorry, just I'm muting someone here. I haven't made the tikkun yet. So, Rav Kook says, if I now start to work on that thing and start to make a tikkun on it, it's not only that I make a tikkun right now, but I wasn't a bad person back then. It was just that, let's say it was a kavod issue. It's just that I didn't make a tikkun on kavod yet. So I was experiencing a negative situation there because I hadn't made a tikkun yet. Now, when I'm facing the same challenge, it's the exact same thing. It's the same thing that I'm still trying to make a tikkun on. So when I make the tikkun, it's as if I time travel. And I go back, and it's as if I made a tikkun on that moment 20 years ago when I was fighting the same battle. And the same thing that came back to me 10 years ago, or last month, or the month before. It's as if I'm making a tikkun on all those experiences. And like Sandra and I were speaking about last week, right? Maybe it goes back even further than that. Maybe it goes back to past lives. Maybe it goes back to previous generations. Maybe I'm making a tikkun on a midah of my parents. Right? We know that gets transferred to us. Maybe I'm helping for there to be a tikkun on my children after me. Maybe they'll be able to learn from the tikkun, right? So it's time travel. And when we do Hisbodedus, and we think about and talk about our day with Hashem, and talk about our difficulties and the tikkunim that we're working on, we're drawing Hashem into those experiences, and drawing, if I could say, tikkunim into those circumstances. So Bezos Hashem, we'll keep going in this totally beautiful, awesome, amazing Torah. Tesvav 15 of Rabbi Nachman, and we'll continue to uncover these ideas. Any questions or comments? Yeah.
I have what is now a practical COVID question. And I'm curious what you would say, which I would be willing to share to the class. You can tell me to take it off if you want.
Go ahead if you want to.
So I had before I heard about the Astra vaccine, and so I'm in my early 60s here. I heard about the registry, so I signed up through the drugstore, and so I got an email this morning.
Yeah.
Congratulations, we have the stuff now, and sign up right away within 24 hours before it all expires. It gets busy, and you can get your vaccine. So in the meantime, there's been a lot in the press, and so I've heard, that may not be the most effective one. Okay, and we're not going into boring people with statistics and nonsense. I'll just leave it at that. And so at the end of the day, I'm struggling now because if I had known that honestly beforehand, I probably wouldn't have signed up for it. Would have waited, whatever. And now I've been honestly, to your point, I've been struggling all day with what do I do, calling my friends who are doctors, nurses, or whatever, and a couple of times thinking, I'm not believing in God. And so at the end of the day, if I had my druthers, I would wait for the next vaccines to come, which are supposed to be next month, Pfizer and whatnot. They're supposed to be getting 25 million doses. They're supposed to be better. Or should I be taking this vaccine because I had signed up for it and the drugstore will give it to me, and I have to put my faith in God that, I'm going to be okay. This one's only 65% effective versus the others that are 95.
Right.
And I'm struggling with that.
Great point. Great question. So I'm going to specifically not mention anything about the effectiveness of vaccines
For sure.
or what the science is, because it's not really my field. But what I will say is that when we're experiencing these situations and we start to feel this emotional uprising, and we start to feel anxious, and we start to feel stressed and worried. Is this the right thing? Is this not the right thing? What am I doing? Is this the right vaccine? Is not the right vaccine? It's only 65%. What if I get it? What if I do this? What if? And that is causing me to feel stress and to feel anxiety and to live in a way that is, you're right, it's not, my emunah is not firing on all cylinders, right? For sure, that's a problem. And that's pointing us to the fact that our yira is not in the right place. Practically speaking, one of the most important things about, this is a great point, by the way, super great point. I was speaking to someone about this last week. Someone is trying to decide whether they should stay in Toronto, leave Toronto. They're not sure if they even can move because of, can they immigrate to America? They're not even sure, whatever. So an important point is to make sure to put a reasonable effort in to making a proper decision in the practical world. A reasonable effort to making a good decision. And removing the doubts, right? But a reasonable effort, that means not dwelling, not going to a million people, just doing some research and making a decision. And then, when I make that decision is done. And now I have emunah. Right? So in other words, from an emunah perspective, I would say, don't think about it too much more. Make a decision. Right? If you got some information and you want to wait for the vaccine that's going to be more effective, so be like, I'm going to wait for that vaccine. And now I'm not going to be worried about what's going to be until that vaccine comes. I'm deciding on Pfizer. And now that I've decided on Pfizer, okay, now I'm going to be an Eved Hashem. And I'm going to put my years in Hashem. That's it. right? And if because this aspect of being like, what about this? What about that? I'm going to call another 100 people, and I'm going to spend days and days going through this whole thing, right? That is going to drive a person crazy. That's going to be a painful, unhappy life, right? So, the better choice is to, because you're likely. I'm sorry. I'll say it for myself. I'm not a specialist in vaccines. I'm not going to read all the studies, the actual scientific studies, and make a decision like some people I know do. I'm going to get some advice from medical professionals that I trust, and that's what I'm going to do. And that means that I'm going to save days and hours of worry and of time wasted doing research on the Googler. Right? So, yeah.
I take your point, because I was thinking about it a lot today, and on the one hand, it's really funny, because to your point, if I decide to wait, it's really interesting, because at the end of the day, the way they're doing it, I probably won't get another chance for a couple of months.
Right.
Most people, it's going to take a while for everybody. And so ironically, I'm putting my faith in God anyways.
Yeah.
Because by not taking this one, guess what? I can be sick because I've waited.
Right.
And not get sick either way. And even then, you don't necessarily know what vaccine we're going to get the way the government's doing it.
That's right.
So you're going to be called for an appointment to a Metro Center or...
So we're all going to give you a bracha. All of us are going to give you a bracha that whichever way you decide, if you take this one, if you take Pfizer later, you should have a couple of months of happiness and emunah. And if you take this one now, you should... That's right. And if you take this one now, you should go from here and onward with happiness and emunah. That's it. Okay, Chevra.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
So you said that if there's something bad and it scares someone or attacks someone or is doing something not good to someone.
Yeah.
Let's say there's a bad person that's whatever. So how would one get rid of that bad person? You said you could just they have no power. How do they actually get them out of their lives?
Right. So what Rabbi Nachman is telling us over here is that those things in our lives don't have the power on their own to cause us fear. So with the example that we had with debt, right? The debt's still there.
Let's say if someone was involved with someone who was bad, but they somehow got custody of their children or something, but they were a bad person, they did bad things, they
Right.
make a living with stealing or something like that.
Right.
Bad. How do they get?
Right. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that we're talking about the fear aspect. That whatever that situation is, there's no power of fear that situation, that person, that item has over you. You have to deal with it still. You have to take care of your debt. You have to live in this world. If there's a terrible person who is doing bad things to you, so you have to figure out how to deal with them. I mean, obviously, everything, first and foremost, we have to make sure that our tefillahs are aimed to Hashem and that we're davening for the things that we need taken care of, right? But that thing is still, in all of these situations, the thing is still there. It's just that it doesn't have the power over us to cause us fear and to ruin our lives. You hear? So,
What if someone? I'm just trying to help somebody.
Yeah.
What if someone is getting ill because of the bad things they're feeling because of a person?
Right. So there's two stages. There's if you know somebody who has no money and has 6 kids and can't feed them and they're depressed and afraid, right? So you can help them with their depression and fear, for sure, right? But you also have to figure out how to get food in their mouths. right? So if there's a situation where someone is in this type of situation, where they're dealing with somebody who's a toxic force in their lives, in whatever way it is, so you can help the person with emunah and with what we're talking about putting the yira in the right place, and that person does not have to be afraid of that aspect of their lives, but you have to on the ground through advice, with people who know in the field, maybe through the right kind of rabbinical advice, and maybe through organizations in the community. You have to help the person, right? But those are two things that have to be done together, right? We're not giving a magic bullet here that if somebody has a toxic force in their life, that just do a spiritual endeavor and it's going to go away. I mean, it's kind of true. You got to daven, but we have to do our job in the world. We have to go to work to make money, but the work that we do doesn't help without tefillah and without emunah, right? And we have to have emunah. But the emunah doesn't work if we don't also do our part. Hashem wants us to be involved in the world. So really, it's both. Really, you have to figure out how to help that person, and there's no broad-based answer. A personal situation where there's really real difficulties, they're complicated and they're different, and you need people who are experts and professionals to guide in how to help that person. And then we need Rabbi Nachman to help us with the rest of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. Okay, everybody have an amazing, awesome week. Next week is the last shiur before Pesach, so we're going to have to take a short break from our cleaning to come and learn together. Okay, everybody have an amazing week.
Will there be a class next week?
Bezras Hashem, yes. Yeah. Okay, all the best, guys. Love you all.
Only good things, thank you.